Hi, Kapil. Nice to see you again on Coaching Conversations. We have a lot of wet weather today, which you might be able to see behind me. There'll be some rain, and you might be able to hear the rain hitting the conservatory at some point. But I know that we had a chat the other day about decision making, and you said something that really made me think about it. Can you just remind me what it was you said?
Yes, Paul, that's it. And this hit me quite hard about a year ago when I had a lot of people around me who were not making decisions and therefore holding themselves back. And now it's like, okay, if I'm holding myself back, there's no action taken. When you're not making a decision, you're actually draining your own energy. So I came to a conclusion that not making a decision is actually worse than making the wrong decision.
Tell me about that.
So I'll give you an example. If you're wanting to start a new project, whether that could be something creative, start a new business, if you don't know where to start, how to start, where it might go right or go wrong for you, all these different outcomes you're thinking about, the fears that you might have, how that could look, oh yeah, 10 years down the line, I want to have this and this, but you don't know where to start. You have all these ideas, but you're not getting started. And that holds you back because your energy is all in the future. Actually, your energy should be where you are today. So the idea is, okay, rather than deciding not to take action, you should take action regardless of what the outcome could look like. So what that means is if you take action and it goes well for you, then we're doing well, thumbs up. However, if you're taking action and it does not go well for you, that's still okay because you're learning what's not happening for you. You're learning where it's not going right for you, where it's going wrong. And then you start to address those little points in that journey as to where it went wrong. How did it go wrong? How can I make it better next time around? So therefore, you already got the momentum to correct those actions and go towards your goal of creating this new project or this new business idea, for example. So again, making the right decision or the wrong decision is better than making no decision at all today.
Okay, that's a fantastic concept, and I can see where you're coming from. I'm just thinking about, in terms of when we talk about leadership, we talk about leading from the front. So you can lead from the middle, and you can obviously lead from the back.
Yes.
Where does that fit in with this concept?
So, for example, if you're like a CEO of a company, or if you're a leader of a group, whether it can be a community group or an exercise program which you're running as a lead coach, it's all about knowing that if you can make a decision, you're taking that decision on yourself, also part of that group. You're leading from all angles of that group. You're leading from the front, as you said, and from behind and in the middle. And people want to feel empowered by their leader. They can trust a leader who can make bold decisions there and then, rather than holding back and thinking, okay, I have no idea what to do right now. I'm facing circumstances I have no idea all about. So let me just freeze here for a good, few days or few weeks and not do anything about it. When actually, when you've got a team behind you or around you, they're going to feel more empowered and more respectful for you as a leader because you can make a decision when it's most required. Because these people aren't thinking about the future so much, they think about what's happening today and about their future from day one. So if you can demonstrate to your team around you as a leader that you can make a decision in the most adverse circumstances, that shows that you have good awareness of how to make a decision. You understand that not everyone's going to be on board with you. You have to accept the fact that not everyone's going to be happy with your decision, if that's the case, because you can't go around pleasing everyone. Because if you please everyone, you're going to be stuck forever. As long as you make a decision that's right for you, then only then, you're making progress, you're taking action, you're seeing where that team will go in the future. So it's all about leading from the front, the back, the middle, all around you. It's actually influencing every member of the team. So that's why decision making is very powerful.
Okay, this is interesting because I think that there was a thing here I was thinking about when you were mentioning this. And that is, of course, that when you make a decision and you go in one direction or another with your company or on your project, the people that you're working with, if there is trust between you, will tell you if it's in the wrong direction and if it's the wrong decision.
Mm.
And then you can always change tack. Whereas if you're not doing anything at all, there is no feedback, there is no movement forward, and so on. And,
Yeah.
and I think the key word that comes up, which is something that I certainly know from my own professional life, is the word awareness. You know,
Yeah.
are you aware of yourself, your impact on other people? Are you aware of your company? Where is that right now? You know, what language are we using amongst ourselves? Awareness of our mission statement, and how do we actually link to that in our day-to-day running. And I think that fits really well in with what you're saying. Don't be afraid, take a decision at some point, and don't be too worried if it's the wrong one, because if you've got the right people around you, you can fix it.
Yeah. And there's one important word you use there is feedback. I think people want some kind of response and mechanism to say, yes, you're doing it right, or no, you're not doing it right. Turn it around. I'll give you an example. So a few years ago, I went traveling to South America, and that was a big thing for me. I had no idea what to expect. So I went to Bolivia. Bolivia is not a country which is spoken about or shown a lot about in the media, but I went anyway because I had people that I knew in the past that went there as well to do traveling. So kind of faced my fears in a way and said, okay, I won't know everything about this place. But if I do want to do that, if I want to know everything about this place, then I'll be stuck here forever, not making a decision to actually travel out there in the first place. So now I'm just like, okay, holding myself back again. So that's an example of me actually showing a bit of courage what I could and saying, yeah, I don't know all the answers to what I'm doing, but that's still fine. You'll figure it out later on. And going traveling was probably one of the best experiences of my life. And if I waited to be absolutely 100% ready to go, I will never go, because I'm waiting to tick off every little bit in my list to say, yes, 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 now it's fine to go. And in fact, I probably ticked off like 3 out of 20 things and said, yeah, that's fine for me. I'm going to go. I came back as a better person, and I'm glad I went. And now I've inspired more people to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's interesting, because I'm just thinking now about risk taking, and I'm particularly thinking about calculated risk taking. So not this sort of idea that, well, I think I can fly, I'm at the top of the Eiffel Tower, why don't I give it a shot? Well, something's called gravity is probably going to influence what's going to happen then. So it's not that kind of risk taking I'm thinking about, but the one that is calculated, where you say, okay, worst case scenario is this, best case scenario is that, I might end up somewhere in the middle, but if I don't do it, I won't know. And I think what we need to try and work with ourselves and with our clients is not being frightened of the unknown.
Yeah.
So saying, actually, this could be a wrong move, but it could also be something really good for me, like going traveling or moving the business in a particular direction. And there's one thing which I think and traveling is a good picture of that you're talking about. I mean, you can obviously go traveling and you say, I'm going to a resort, I know what the swimming pool looks like, I know where the bars are, and all that sort of stuff. Or you can go traveling and say, I'm going to such and such a place, but I actually don't really know what might happen on the way getting there or whilst I'm there.
Yeah.
So there is an element of surprise, risk, facing the unknown.
Yeah, it's the unknown territory which you're going to be embarking upon, which you don't know about until you actually embrace it yourself. And I often tell clients, when a client has something they want to overcome, one of the first things I ask them is, okay, what would happen if you're still facing the exact same fear 1 year from now? What happens then? How does that make you feel? And then that's when they get back, oh, okay, like I don't want to be going through the same thing over and over again for the next 12 months. I want to do something about this. And to do something about that means addressing what it is that you're probably fearing, but also knowing that you won't have all the answers in the first place. It's actually accessing that unknown territory and seeing for yourself what comes out from the other side. And again, this probably goes back to the comfort zone, where you're leaving the comfort zone to be uncomfortable in the new territory. And then you're looking around you, you see all these different new things happening in your life, which you never anticipated. And then you come out as a new person because you learned things about yourself in the unknown territory. You learned new skills, new beliefs about yourself. You learned new values about yourself. That's the most important thing about a human being for me, is to learn more and more about yourself. And to do that is to get uncomfortable. It is to know and be mindful that you won't know everything about this new challenge that you're facing, and that's fine. The important thing is that you get going, you get your hands dirty, you go into that unknown territory, and you come out as a better person from the other side.
Yeah, and I think, when you think about just modern technology and the internet and phones and all that sort of stuff, we are so used to be able to take a phone, press a button, and we get the answer.
Mm.
And we then say, well, yes, I know this now. But the truth is, of course, that life is not like that. Life is not like pressing a button and get an answer immediately. It's much more complicated and fraught with all sorts of things, success and failures. And I think that's really interesting, that actually, if we can try and live with the understanding of that change, because we are changing as human beings all the time anyway, that we can live with change and see change as a good state of mind to be in, and not one that causes constant stress and worries, and just it brings us into something else that I know we have talked about, and that is the ability to let go. Let go to the situation as it is. Because there's the old story about there was a young man, and he was walking along a river that was quite powerful. There's a lot of downstream power, and there was an old man on the other side. And the young man was watching the old man walking, thinking, he's getting pretty close to that river now, and I'm a little bit worried about that. And the old man falls into the river and starts, going down with the river. And the young man runs down, because he's obviously on the other side and he's too frightened to go in and try and get the old man out of the river. So he runs down to the end of the river. And when he comes down there, the old man is sitting on the bank. And the young man thinks, wow, what happened? So he goes up to the old man and he said, you know what, I was really worried that you were going to drown, but you're sitting here on the bank. How did you manage to do that? And the old man looked up at the young man and said, I just followed the flow of the river. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that story. Instead of trying to fight against what's happening, just follow the flow and see where it takes you.
Well, it's quite a powerful story there, because it goes back to understanding that you can't control every little aspect of the circumstance you're in. There's only so much you can control, and there's so much you can't control. And what you can't control, you have to learn to let go of. Otherwise, your energy is just being poured into every area you can think of, whether it's controllable or not. And that again stops you from making a decision in this case, right? So I like the fact that that's what life is all about in a way, in my opinion, because only so much do you know about yourself that you can control. And the rest of it's like free flowing, like the water in the river. And that's fine, that's life. That's life. That's just life every day. What's happening around that is what you're doing around that river, like what actions are you taking as a person. And the rest of it will just be free flowing. So that's really powerful. Yeah, I like that. Cool.
And it's interesting, just talk about going with the flow now. It's hammering down with the water on the roof of the conservatory. But it's really interesting because when when we go through life, you will meet different kind of people that has different kind of personality traits. And you have these people who will just, most of their life, they've had that attitude, okay, this is happening. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to get the best out of it. And you meet other people who will fight every corner and every turn and see what comes out of it. And that's not necessarily the right solution.
Yeah. And this resonates with the point that when it comes to decision making, when it comes to not making a decision, that's because you're waiting for the right time. And for someone, a right time is, yep, I've got 20 different success factors I want to have in place, and then boom, I'm going to go on this new journey and take on this new challenge. But actually, you can't wait for all the circumstances to be in your favor, especially circumstances that you can't control yourself. You can't control the weather, you can't control the traffic, you can't control what's happening around you, you can't control what can be shown in the news. You can control what you're capable of doing as a person, what's happening within you and what's happening you as a person. What can you do to take action?
Yeah.
And only when you recognize that you can't control everything around you, you start to feel more empowered. It's almost counterintuitive, but you do, because you know you're more aware of what you can do as a person today, rather than waiting for things around you to fall into place. Once you actually take control of what you can do as a person, that's what matters. That's where the results come. Because you're actually creating a new result for yourself despite what's happening around you. That's when you can say to yourself, you know what, I went on this journey, even though I had all these setbacks and all these circumstances around me, I still made it through. Life was still flowing like a river around me, but I was doing all the actions myself, and I saw the end result. Yeah, it took a lot of time, but I didn't wait on the sidelines. I didn't wait from square zero. I actually just went up and did it, regardless of what could have happened in the first place. So yeah, it's really powerful there.
Yeah, and also there's something we know this from, for example, from the Alexander technique, but it's the word inhibition. And sometimes I think it's a good idea to stop yourself from doing something. So inhibit yourself. It allows you to take a step back and view the situation. And then maybe once then you have done that and done a bit of thinking and reflecting, then move into action. Not knowing whether this is the right move or not.
Yeah.
But a bit of inhibition can actually sometimes be quite effectful, because it just gives you a pause to check yourself, check your surroundings, check what's going on, and then say, okay, I'm going to go with this. This might not be the right decision, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and that's a very important point also, because sometimes the goal you're trying to reach isn't actually the goal that you wanted in the first place. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you wanted to go to the gym to work out, be in a certain sort of physical shape, or feel good about yourself. Maybe that was the actual goal in the first place, when at day one you thought, actually, I wanted to go there to get fit, but now actually I want to go there just to feel good about myself. So there's two different slight things there, but your goal can change along the journey as well. You won't even realize it until you start making progress. So sometimes a goal isn't always a goal until you actually make a good amount of progress towards that goal. So sometimes I've seen it myself sometimes, where I have a goal in place and I think, yeah, that's the end result for me. And boom, once I get it, I'm happy with that. And actually, once you start to develop as a character and develop new skills on that journey, you actually start to have a realization that actually the goal that I wanted is not quite what I wanted originally, but I'm now going for a new goal because this is what I wanted. And I wouldn't realize that until I start making some progress. And because I made that progress, I know that I'm actually attaining something which is actually more resonating with me as a person, rather than a goal which I thought would be nice to have from day one. But yeah.
And I think that those who become successful are those who can change tack. Those who can say, okay, this is not the goal anymore. Circumstances have changed. I have changed. We need to redefine it, review it, and redefine it, and move in a slightly different direction. And those who can't do that, I think if we get stuck in, no, this is what it should be, this is what it is, and not realizing that the reality is not in our heads, but the reality is out there somewhere. If you can't realize that, you're not going to be as successful as you probably could have been.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage to realize and make the bold decision to say, you know what, it's not working well for me. Let's try plan B or try plan C rather than plan A, because plan A is not giving me the result I want. You could alternatively just say, let me try plan A over and over again, by that same cycle over and over again, hoping for a new outcome, a new result. But at the end of the day, you're just going to be draining the same energy using, what the output will look like, what the outcome is going to be, because you try the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and I think also, so that's one thing. The other thing is, of course, that the goal can still be the same, but you might realize that you have to take a different journey.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think the light bulb was invented first time,
Mm.
you know, that a certain famous person tried to invent it. There had probably been lots of different experiments and trials. But I think what maybe stops us from going down that more effective route is it's always difficult to say I was wrong, or it's always difficult to say, even worse, I failed. But that's of course where the growth mindset comes in. You know, Carol Dweck's growth mindset comes in, where you say, well, it's okay to have failures, because what it means is that I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way.
Yeah, and something that's coming up for me as well is the analogy of using a satellite navigation system, where you plug in the details about where you're starting from. Let's say you're going from home to, I don't know, to the seaside, 100 miles away. Along the journey, you come to a diversion, and you think, oh wow, where did this come from? Or like a big build-up of traffic from nowhere. Your sat nav won't say to you, you have to turn around, go back home, and start again tomorrow. Your sat nav will calculate what is the next best alternative route to get to your destination. And the same thing applies with goal setting, because like you said, you will get setbacks somewhere in that journey. But that's a teaching point for you to say, actually, okay, I learned something here. Something has not gone right for me, but I can use that to my advantage and still work towards that same outcome, the same goal. The outcome will be the same, but the journey to that outcome will be slightly different to what I thought it would be from day one. So I think that's quite powerful there as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great one actually to think about the sat nav. We need more sat nav mentality. I mean, that's probably what it is. Recalculate an alternative route and move on. And what is actually interesting in what you're saying there is that in most cases, we would actually trust the sat nav to do this for us. And I'm just thinking, you know, who do we trust, or what do we trust in ourselves when things has to change, when we have to find an alternative route to our goal? I wonder, what in ourselves do we trust? Intuition, experience, friends, and so on. That's actually an interesting thing to think about. Who do we trust to make the recalculation to get to where we want to go?
Yeah, I think the help you can get, so let's say, for example, you'll reach out to a person to say, you know what, I made it this far in my journey, I'm about 20% of the way there, but now I've faltered. I found this, I'm at a place where I've actually encountered a failure. Now I want to look for an alternative way to get to the goal. This is where, for example, you speak to someone and say, you know what, I've come this far. What have you done when you came to the same position as me? What decisions do you make in that circumstance? So yeah, it's actually deciding for yourself, when is it best to say to yourself, actually, something's not right for me. What can I do about it? What thoughts I'm having to myself? What can I do? How can I use my own intuition to say, I can try something different here? Alternatively, call out to somebody else. Who's around you? What network can you use? Who's in your network? Who are your friends and family you can speak out to and say, please, can you help me? And that takes courage as well.
Yeah, and I think then again, something that I certainly talk a lot with my colleagues about and with my clients is to be interdependent.
Okay.
So if we're looking at sort of the highest level of self-actualization, we would say, well, an interdependent person is that type of person. Somebody who can obviously work on their own and get on with things, but somebody who also realizes that working as part of a team is really where things start happening. So we are interconnected, we are dependent on each other to be successful. And I think in particular where we get stuck somewhere with a problem, we're moving in the right directions, we've got some failures that have been holding us back for some time, that's where interconnectedness come in. Because then working with others, learning from others, moving forward together, as you and I have talked about before in our conversations, is probably one of the ultimate goals for success and self-actualization with and through other people.
Yeah, that's a great point, because sometimes I've heard a lot of stories where people are trying to take on a new project all by themselves, where they think to themselves, you know what, I've got this. I don't need anyone's house. I don't want anybody's help with this. I'm happy with what I'm doing. You know, I'm the person I can rely on is me, and that's it. That's all I need is one person. When actually, like you're saying, is if you reach out to other people who are also on a similar journey or been on that journey and have actually reached that goal, you're actually reaching out to a wider pool of knowledge, experience, and skills. And they can give you shortcuts, or they can give you new inputs, new ideas, new perspectives to use on your own journey. And that way you're actually cutting out, a big chunk of that journey, because you actually take on some new knowledge yourself and realize, actually, wait a minute, there is a different way I can do this, in a more effective way I can do this, a more efficient way I can do this. And that way you're actually attaining the goal that you wanted in a much more efficient amount of time overall, because you use this greater pool of knowledge around you.
Yeah, and I think just the final thought I wanted to share with you was that something again that I've heard from some of my clients is they said, if I only had known this before. So through the coaching process, things get discovered, things get focused upon that maybe didn't have a focus before for the client. And when they then reflect, at the end of the coaching journey, we reflect together, they will often say, if only I'd asked this question before, or if only I had known this before, or if only a torch had been shone upon this before, that would have made such a big difference in my life. And that comes from being interdependent and interconnected, because we learn from each other. So I think that was a really good thought. And that's definitely going to be my sort of final point for today. What's yours, Kapil?
Yeah, I think for me, it's sometimes when you're choosing to do something too much on your own, too long, it's almost like an egotistical mindset. I've been there myself as well, where I think I'm the person to do this, nobody else, I don't need anybody else. But when you have other people around you, a support mechanism there for you to help you get on your journey and help you with your journey, that's when you can go much further and faster together as well. So when it comes to the decision making, not making a decision is worse than making the wrong decision. So for that to happen, in order for you to make a decision, regardless whether it's the right one or the wrong one, is to just get started and just see how the first 1 or 2 steps go for you. And on that journey, keep learning about what you're doing, get that feedback, and then make that realization that, yeah, this is the right one for me. This is the right tactic. This is the right route for me. If it's not the right route for you, that's fine. You can say to yourself, you know what, I tried. Let me see what's going to be working for me. What's the alternative method for me? And learn from there. Because the goal is not just the goal, it's the person you become in attainment of the goal as well. You learn so much about yourself as a person when you're attaining a goal. And it's the person that you become, it's actually sometimes more important than the goal itself, depending on what you want. So that's my takeaway from this as well.
Absolutely. And guys, if you liked our conversation today, please click like down at the bottom and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time on Coaching Conversations. Have a great day. Bye for now.